Hello everyone, it's Irene here again. So let's continue the game that we started yesterday, which was the Sinful Testament. And I do think we might have like 1 hour and a half of this one still. But we'll see as we go along. So we were with Will and we were making an offer in terms of like stealing an important flag, as I recall. Okay. Oh, in terms of like the disclaimer, I think it's like, it says that it's for 18 plus because you have like some disturbing situations in here in terms of like the suicide, you know, the Russian roulette kind of thing, and you know, like you have like some descriptions of that, and I think it's because of the crime in itself that they put the disclaimer for 18 plus. I'm not seeing anything more than that. I don't know. So let's continue. Oh, I don't know. Wait. Okay, that's enough to start checking. He looked at Ray again. I need time, contacts in Dallas, and access to a couple of newspaper. I want to see what's being printed about the exhibition and who's behind it. Then I'll be able to tell whether she's lying or not. Ray leaned back in his chair. Fine, let's say I give you that time. Will turned his gaze to me again. Then here's what we'll do with you. No more details for now. You've already said more than you should have. You aren't going anywhere before tonight anyway. If the information checks out, we'll come back to your brilliant proposal. He tilted his head slightly to one side. If it doesn't... Ray left the thought unfinished, but it was obvious enough that he could go right back to the ranch and the cabaret whenever he pleased. Will rose quietly from his seat and headed for the door. I'll take care of it right away. For a second his gaze lingered on me. And you're coming with me. My legs almost gave out on me, but I still managed to make it to the doorway. Will politely held the door open and stepped aside to let me pass first, as if this were not a gang hideout, but a perfectly respectable establishment. Yeah, let me just check. No, yeah, it is fine. Yeah, I did like a change in here because of my headphones. Yeah, no, I think it's fine. Okay. We stepped into the hallway and made our way towards the stairs. The steps gave off dull thuds beneath our feet, and a tense silence settled between us. All I could hear was my own heartbeat and the occasional sound from deeper inside the building. Unable to bear it any longer, I finally broke the silence. Where are we going? My office. The word sounded oddly out of place in a place like this, and despite myself, I pictured just about anything except a proper space. Sorry. But when we stopped at one of the doors on the second floor and Will unlocked it with a key, the reality turned out to be much closer to the usual meaning of the word than I expected. The room really did look like an office. Bookcases lined walls, their shelves filled with neatly arranged volumes. A large writing desk stood in the center, covered in orderly stacks of papers. Behind it stood an opulent high-backed chair, a little out of place here, which somehow made it suit its owner all the more. Against the opposite wall sat a small sofa upholstered in dark fabric, with a little table beside it. Will gestured briefly towards the sofa. "You can sit down." He himself went around the desk and took his seat in the chair. Resting his elbows on the desk, he laced his fingers together, lowered his chin into his clasped hands, and studied me in silence for a while, as though he were sorting through everything he had already learned about me and putting it neatly in order. "I have to admit, I wasn't expecting you to pull something like this." He tilted his head slightly to one side. "And strangely enough, I do want to believe you. Everything sounded far too detailed and convincing." He dropped his gaze to the papers in front of him, weighing something in his mind. "However, taking someone at their word in my line of work would mean admitting my own incompetence, and I am not inclined to take that kind of risk. So I'll verify everything thoroughly." The anxiety inside me gradually began to ease. He clearly saw me as more than just that weight he needed to get off his hand as quickly as possible. Will leaned back in his chair. "You'll have to stay here while I look into the details. I may have a few more questions once I start checking things." I nodded and settled onto the sofa, trying not to wrinkle the hem of my dress or show just how tightly wound I still was inside. He was still looking at me with calm focus, as though I were a source of information he'll have to return to more than once. "Tea or coffee?" The question sounded so ordinary, as though we were discussing not a potential robbery but a routine business visit. "I'll go with coffee." "I like tea, but I don't think I'm the biggest fan of tea. But I also do not drink coffee several times a day. I usually only drink coffee once a day, sometimes twice. Yeah, but I was never the biggest fan of tea because I think most people don't know this. Tea has a great potential to create stones in your kidneys. It has to do with something that tea has, and oxalates, something like that. I don't remember the name, but it has a potential to increase the kidney stones. And the best way to kill those is with lemon. So it's better for you to actually drink like water with lemon than actually like be drinking tea all the time. So because of that, like, I still like tea, and I like tea especially during the winter, because it's hot and it's it tastes good during the winter. But I'm not the biggest fan, especially because there's like a ton of teas that I don't even enjoy. So coffee, if that's all right. Of course, I'll get it. He rose, let his calm, assessing gaze pass over me once more, then stepped out and gently closed the door behind him. For a while, I simply sat there, listening to the faint sounds outside, distant footsteps, a muffled rustle, the soft creak of wood. Then I carefully rose from the sofa. Since they've left me here alone, I should make use of the opportunity. So, I don't know, we just click. I shift my gaze to the desk. A sheet of paper was still loaded into the typewriter. A few lines had already been typed near the bottom, and beside it lay a page covered in handwritten notes. I didn't dare get too close, but I managed to catch a few words: agreement, interest, liability of the parties. A heavy black telephone sat beside the typewriter. Next to it lay a small notebook filled with neat lines of writing. I could only make out a few entries: a shipping office, port agent, telegraph office. Beside them, separated by commas, were numbers and short surnames. Okay, so I have like a new headphone, and apparently this one is really, really loud. I need to put? Yeah, I need for myself. It's not for you, it's for myself because it's really loud. It's like the usual that I have, but it's just really loud. Okay. Contacts, connections, positions. If anyone can verify my story, it's him. I moved closer to the bookcases, rows of spines stretched like a solid wall from floor to ceiling. There was no fiction here, just reference books, collections of laws, and thick volumes with dry, weighty titles. Texas Civil Code, Case Law on Property Disputes, Fundamentals of Commercial Law. Legal Literature. Is he a lawyer? A few folders had been shoved a little less neatly onto one of the lower shelves. Dates and short labels had been written carefully across their spines: agreement, contracts, land dispute. Between them, I noticed a thin folder labeled Port of Galveston. Galveston is an island city on the Texas coast of the Gulf of Mexico, not far from Houston. People often think of it as a resort town. Warm air, the sea, beaches, boardwalks, hotels, entertainment for visitors, and all the usual infrastructure of a seaside city. Historically, Galveston has been tied to its port and to trade, but for many people, it's first and foremost about rest and the seasonal flow of people. You come here to change the scenery, breathe out, look at the water, and forget for a while that ordinary life with all its problems is still going on somewhere nearby. Yeah, it makes me think about like going back in there again. It does. I miss it. Yeah, I've been in there for like 4 years and I do miss it. I came back basically to visit my family, but then things happened and I ended up staying here. The thing is, it's a long journey. Okay, it's a really long journey. I was doing 20 hours of flight. I don't like to fly. I hate to fly. I already told you that I had like a traumatic situation. No, flying for me, it's like, yeah, I do it and I don't mind going like 3 hours of flight or something. 20 hours for me is like something. And even like this year I was thinking about going to Japan, and Japan is not exactly the same, but it's like 14 hours, something like that, and it's, it's too many. It's just too many. It's very tiresome, many hours just seated in there, and I don't like. There are a lot of people that likes to fly, but I hate it. Like, I keep thinking if there was like another way, but I really hate to fly. But yeah, I do miss, like, sometimes I think about it and I do miss. I was more on your west side, more like in your side of the Pacific Ocean. I was more like in there. I don't want to see, I don't want to say where, honestly, sorry, I don't want to say where, but I was like more in there, let's put it like that. And I really like it. Yeah, I liked it, but it's too many hours, honestly. His interests are, to put it mildly, not purely academic. So Will doesn't just work for the gang, he operates somewhere along the edge of the legitimate world too. Oh, I need to keep clicking. A large map of Houston hung on the wall to the side, crisscrossed with pencil lines and markings. Several circles marked out specific areas, and underneath them were notes: docks, port, railroad. Looks like they are really used to planning everything in advance. A document in a wooden frame. Judging by the seal and the faded ink, it was some kind of diploma. I could only make out law faculty and a year that fit the era perfectly. Higher education was incredibly rare in those days. If I remember right, only around 3% of Americans had a degree in the early 20th century. Yeah, in here was more like, even like during the 50s, the 50s, 60s, yeah, you still had like a ton, at least in here, you had like a ton of illiterated people in here. Like a ton, even during those times. As a rule, only very wealthy families could afford that kind of luxury. With credentials like that, he could have built a career in any respectable place, but for some reason, he's here. Footsteps sounded unexpectedly close in the hallway. I flinched and hurried back to the sofa, barely making it in time before the door opened again. Will stepped inside as though he hadn't been gone for long at all. He was carrying a tray in his hands. Coming closer, he set a cup of coffee in front of me and slid a small saucer with several neatly arranged cookies beside it. I blinked in surprise. A small apology for keeping you cooped up. He said it with perfect indifference and was already about to return to his desk as though he'd just fulfilled some trivial obligation. After taking a couple of steps, he suddenly stopped and turned back. Ah, right, I never did introduce myself. He came back, stopped in front of me, and leaned in slightly, closing the distance between us. Don't forget, this is the lust guy, yeah. But it's kind of like funny, like he's the lust and he studied law. I don't know, kind of doesn't feel like it fits. I'm William Stewart, but you may simply call me Will. He gently lifted my hand and brushed his lips against it. The gesture was polished and impeccably courteous. My cheeks flared traitorously, even though I understood that for this era it was only a polite form of greeting. Still, that was way too close. I already know your name, so don't trouble yourself with introductions. He let go of my hand as calmly as he'd taken it, then turned and headed back to the desk. A moment later, he was back in his chair, utterly absorbed in paperwork and phone calls. I wrapped both hands around the cup. The warm porcelain felt pleasant against my fingers. The cookies were plain, nothing fancy, but after the last 24 hours, they felt almost luxurious. Time crawled by in a slow, sticky haze. Will kept reaching for the telephone, dialing numbers, introducing himself, asking brief questions. Then he'll pull out one of the folders, flip through the pages at speed, and make notes with a slim pencil. Several times he turned to me to clarify the details. Are you certain those were the exact dates? Did they mention a room number or only the floor? Did you catch the surname of the man speaking with your father? Are you sure that's the name you heard? I answered as thoroughly as I could. It was turning into a strange blend of an interrogation and a business meeting, but with every new call I felt more certain that he was actually verifying everything, not just pretending to. Without noticing it, I began glancing at him more and more often, and not just to listen to what he was saying. There's still something going on with this headphone. Let me just check it. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's just pushing too far on one of the sides. Okay. let's continue. There was something oddly mesmerizing about the way he worked. The precise, almost pedantic neatness of his movements and the confidence with which he circled things in his notes all came together into a manner that was clearly second nature to him. And the way his voice changed depending on who was on the other end only sharpened the impression. At some point, he set down the receiver, lifted his eyes, and our gazes met. For a split second, I thought he'll simply go back to his papers. But instead, a familiar sly smile flickered across his lips. Am I really so handsome that you can't seem to look away? I choked on the last of my hot drink, feeling it burn my throat, and nearly bit my tongue. Explain yourself. Swallowing with effort, I tried to look as though I wasn't flustered in the slightest. I was just trying to figure out how you managed to keep up with all of this. It was the first halfway decent excuse that came to mind. You make it look like you're a secretary, a lawyer, and somehow have half the city at your beck and call. For a second, something like pleased amusement flickered in his gaze. That sounds much nicer than an aggressively persistent extractor of information. You are welcome to think of me in even more flattering terms, I permitted. I stubbornly pretended to be wholly focused on my cup and didn't look at him again. In your dreams. As if I'll add fuel to that ego of his. What a pompous peacock. He returned to his papers as though nothing out of the ordinary had happened, while it took me several minutes to steady my breathing and stop the trembling in my fingers. A little while longer passed. I finished my drink, leaving only cookie crumbs on the saucer outside. Night had fully fallen. At last, Will neatly stacked the last folder, set his pencil aside, and rose to his feet. Well then, he walked around the desk and stopped in front of me, leaving only a couple of steps between us. I've checked everything. He looked at me closely as though, once again, weighing everything I'll told him against what he'd just learned. The exhibition is indeed being prepared, the place and the dates match. The wording in the invitations is suspiciously close to what you described. We won't be able to get a direct answer about the New York Museum right away. But there is a confirmed information that its current owner really does buy rare and unique items for handsome sums. He inclined his head slightly. And there are rumors of a special lot for a private circle of collectors as well. No precise descriptions, true, but the right people are already whispering. I felt something inside me loosen, as though an invisible loop had slackened just a little. So yes, your story seems entirely truthful. I think we can work with this. He cast a quick glance at the door, then back at me, and with a brief gesture indicated the exit. Come on, we need to explain everything to the others. I rose from the sofa, smoothing the skirt of my dress by reflex. Looks like that worked somehow. I stepped towards the door, feeling my heart begin to beat faster again, though now it wasn't only from fear. All at once, everything happening around me seemed to gain weight, and I felt with startling clarity that my words really had altered the course of this story. Will and I went back downstairs by the familiar staircase. At the door to that same basement room, I hesitated for a couple of seconds. The others were sitting by the crates. One was sorting through bottles, another was checking labels and invoices, and the air carried a faint smell of alcohol and dust. I looked around and immediately noticed that neither Lo nor Lei was there. Ernie caught my bewildered glance and lazily waved a hand. If you were just thinking about Lo and Lei, they've already gone home. Will crossed to the table and stopped beside Ray. Now to the point. There were several mismatched chairs around the table. With a small gesture, Will invited me to choose one and sit down. Ray leaned back in his chair and looked at me with open curiosity. Since you've put on this little performance, Princess, tell us the whole thing. I took a breath, trying to keep my face serious, even though everything inside me twisted at how absurd this was. Wonderful, now I am about to pitch a movie plot I watched with popcorn, like it's the master plan of the century. Alright, then listen carefully. I started to speak and the words fell into a familiar order on their own. My voice came out calmer than I expected. The exhibition will be held at the Adolphus Hotel. That evening there'll be a private viewing of the black market lots for a selected few. At the first stage, you'll need people inside who can blend in with the crowd, at least two. One with the cover of a respectable gentleman, the other posing as his companion or assistant. Your job isn't just to look over the hall, you need to memorize where the guards are posted, where the emergency exits are, and how to reach the staff areas. Ray leaned forward slightly, and Ernie stopped idly spinning the cork between his fingers. The main hall will be brightly lit. The flag will be displayed under glass. The important thing is that at private viewings, security often relaxes. They rely on the invitation system, not on watching for random intruders. You'll need someone who can take advantage of that, someone who can draw attention to themselves. For example, they could stir up a small scandal in another part of the hall over a supposedly fake piece or an argument about a lot's valuation. I went through the roles one by one. One person would have to get backstabbed under the guise of backstage. You know, it's always like this. You notice when I start reading, it's always like this because I'm still sleepy. It's morning. I'm still sleeping. I'm still not used to the text box in itself, and I get like this. Another would have to intercept the tube with the flag once it was taken to storage. And another would be waiting below by the rear exit with a car ready to get out of downtown before the police had even gathered the facts. You need at least 4 people plus a driver. One creates the distraction to handle the flag and the building, and one covers the retreat. The car has to be parked by the service entrance in advance. After that, everything comes down to timing. You'll have a window of a few minutes while security is still trying to understand what happened. I sounded confident, but inside I still felt like I was reading a movie summary out loud in class. If the people from the program could see me right now, they'll probably decide I've finally lost my mind. The flag has to be hidden in a prepared tube with false markings. After that, you approach the owner of the New York Museum and negotiate a buyback for a very large sum. The main thing you need from me isn't just a plan, it's guaranteed access inside. You don't have invitations or any official standing in that circle. But I do have the password. If you get me there, I'll get you inside, and then this might actually work. Silence settled over the room. I could feel each of them turning my words over in his mind, trying on the roles, weighing the odds, while the air grew thicker with concentration. Ray was the first to break the silence. Alright, let's sum it up. If everything goes perfectly, we walk away with the flag, sell it for good money, you get your share, and we graciously let you go on your way. In return, you keep your mouth shut for the rest of your life. If you talk, we expose your role as an accomplice and you go down with us. He lazily tapped his fingers against the lid of the crate. If something goes wrong, though, we go back to the good old alternatives. Either the sticks and harbor labor, or the stage lights of a cabaret. Makes no difference to me. I curled my fingers, feeling my nails bite into my palms again, and forced myself not to look away. Simple and fair by their crooked standards. We've got about 2 weeks until the auction. The exhibition is scheduled for April 26th. Until then, you'll stay here. Think of it as something halfway between a partnership and house arrest. No one step outside without an escort. And no funny business. Behave yourself, and I might even forget I was planning to sell you in the first place. I let out a slow breath, trying to keep my face calm. Ray tilted his head slightly as he studied me. There's just one little detail left. Everything inside me went taut at once as... Everything inside... My God, I need a bit to wake up. Everything inside me went taut at once as if someone had pulled a knot tied beneath my ribs. The password. He stared straight into my eyes without blinking. Out with it. We need a way in, not pretty stories. Tell us now, and we can prepare properly. I froze as if I'd been hit by a jolt of electricity. I don't know. Style moderne. The thought flashed through my mind with startling clarity. All it would take was those two short words, and I'll become an expendable piece. They already knew the plan, the date, the place. As long as they didn't have the password, I still had at least a sliver of leverage. If I obediently gave them the password now, everything would become simpler and clearer for them, not for me. If I kept quiet, the risk of drawing Ray's anger would shoot through the roof. But only this way did I still have a chance not to turn into something they'll sell off the first chance they got. I met Ray's gaze. My heart was pounding so hard that every beat echoed dully in my ears. No. The word came out quieter than I wanted, but clear enough. Say that again. I'm not giving you the password right now. I clenched my fingers tighter to keep my voice from shaking. I understand perfectly well that the moment you get everything you need from me, I'll stop having any value to you. If I tell you the password in advance, you won't need me anymore. And that means you can get rid of me whenever it's convenient. I took another breath and forced myself to go on. I'm not as stupid as my background might make me seem. As long as I'm the only one who knows the password, you can pull this off without me. That's the only thing keeping me in this position of leverage. The room seemed to turn colder. A thick, oppressive silence settled over it. Dan's shoulders tensed while Ernie lifted his brows slightly with a hint of respect and mild surprise. Will half closed his eyes as if quietly marking a point in my favor. Ray looked at me longer than anyone else. Then he let out a short cough. Is that so? He leaned back in his chair without taking his eyes off me. I'll admit it, you are not quite the naive doll I took you for on the first day. A predatory hint of a smile flickered across his face. Fine, let's say you've convinced me this once. He shifted his gaze to the others. She'll give us the password at the entrance. She's coming with us and taking us inside herself. Which means she'll be under our watch from start to finish. His eyes returned to me and swept over my face with cold appraisal. Don't flatter yourself, princess. If you try to cross us, no password's going to save you. I only gave a short nod. I know, but if you fail, I'll suffer right along with you, so it's in my best interest to make sure everything goes perfectly. For the first time since stepping into that room, I felt more than fear. There was also a thin, dangerous, but undeniably real threat of partnership. I'm still walking the edge of a cliff. But now at least I have a chance to influence where this path leads. Once that conversation, the one that could decide my fate, was over, Ray silently and hurriedly walked me back to my room. The tension between us had already been at its limit, and now it was almost tangible. The moment I sank onto the bed and closed my eyes, I dropped straight into a deep sleep. Okay, this was the end of the... as I said, it was going to be like 1 hour or something for what I saw. So that's it. I liked it. I think it was interesting enough. I was a bit concerned about the English, as I said, and it wasn't bad. No, it's like completely fine, you know. And it actually has like a type of a theme that might actually interest most of you, you know. And the boys are cute. They do not seem like you know, those 17 boys. No, I think they are like, most of them are like in their 20s, which is good too. For me, I mean, for me, because I don't like those school settings kind of thing, you know. So that's not for me. So yeah, we end this one, and I'm going to see what we're going to have. What I'm going to bring next. Okay, I still need to wake up today. It's kind of like this. So I'll see you soon. I'm going to leave the link in the description, as always, for you to try the game. And that's it. It was a pity we didn't pass a lot of time with Law, for instance. I think it was like the one, Lay and Law were like the ones that we didn't pass a lot of time with them, right? It was a pity though. So yeah, that's it. And I'll come back very, very soon, okay, with another game. Thank you.